2022. We have a quorum. Welcome everybody to the April 21st Hadley Select Board meeting. And we do have a guest, so I have to read our wonderful boilerplate. So, pursuant to Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022 as amended, this meeting is being conducted in a hybrid format. The public has been provided with adequate means of access via Zoom, as noted in the posted meeting notice, along with access and participation instructions. As chair, I hereby notify all participants that this meeting is also being recorded by the town through Hadley Media and will be made accessible to the public. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, any person who intends to record or transmit this meeting must inform the chair at this time. Anybody else recording? Okay, hearing none. This evening we are totally on Zoom, and select board members here tonight: David Phil, Jane Nevin-Smith, Molly Keegan, Amy Parsons, and myself, Randy Iser. First item on our agenda tonight is public comment. Is there anybody here for public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will go on to item 3, old business, 3.1, override discussion. So let's talk about budget numbers for the annual town meeting override.
I have something I'd like to propose first, and that is all the confusion about having to vote for both items. If we were to put the full amount first, people would know whether or not it passed. If it passed, we do not do the half amount. And so that just solves a whole lot of problems. So I would reverse the position of the questions on the warrant.
Okay.
But don't we want both to be voted on? Because when we get to the ballot, let's say the lesser amount passes and the higher amount doesn't, wouldn't we want to have both?
The ballot will only have one question on it.
I don't think that's true, because I think isn't the ballot already set?
Well,
No. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with the thought, Jane. I just mechanically, we want to make sure that it would actually work.
So Jennifer, were you going to say something?
I was. I've been working with Lisa Mead on this for a couple of days. So she actually thinks flipping the budget or flipping the warrant articles makes sense. And I sort of said to her that we had been working on the premise that it would be the smaller amount first, and then do a second supplemental budget to get to the higher 1.5 million. She said, y'all can do it either way. And she and I are still working on the ballot questions. Until I know what you're going to do, I haven't said any ballot questions. So, this is really up to y'all how you want to do it. If you do the larger amount and then the smaller amount, you do an inverted pyramid style ballot question. It's your preference. I did provide you the memo in your meeting last week from town council showing how that would work. The warrant article, I can share my screen with you and show you the options. Can y'all see it?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is what she is suggesting. And that if Article 8 passes, then you could pass over Article 9. Because if you get the 1.5 million, you don't need the Article 9. I'm worried that people would think that y'all are asking for a very large number again, the over 2 million. So the 850 and then doing this additional supplemental for 650 would get you to the 1.5. And it would sort of go more along with what y'all have been discussing.
So
go ahead, Molly.
I was just gonna say, so to David's point, So if we go with the 1.5 and it passes at town meeting, it still has to pass at the ballot. And it's very possible it won't pass at the ballot, which means that we would then only have the balanced budget that incorporates additional cuts to work with. I think that's my concern, because I think we have to think about every possible permutation, right? Neither one of them can pass at town meeting. Well, that one's easy. We're done. But one or both can pass. And then again, what can happen at the ballot? So if the only choice people have is the 1.5 and it doesn't pass at the ballot, then we've backed ourselves into the no override. Whereas if they have 1.5 and the 850, again, you go to the ballot and either both of those can pass, or one or the other can pass, or neither can pass.
So I've been thinking about this after the emails that we got the other day from a couple of people suggesting that the people are going to assume we're asking for $2.3 million because of the numbers. So Jennifer just said something that I've been thinking about, and that is one article is 850. The second article is an additional 650, not $1.5 million or not $1.5 million or 850. 850 or 650 or 850 plus 650. At least then the numbers add up. People can't look at it and say you're asking for $2.3 million even though we're not. And then then they have two choices that both are reasonable to vote for at the ballot. Hopefully one or the other would pass, preferably both, but at least maybe we'll get something out of it. That's my thought.
I agree with that. I think that would clear up a lot of confusion. I think when we write the warrant article and the ballot questions, I think it's important to clarify that this one is for the schools and whatever, to avoid possibly X number of layoffs and operational cuts, and the other one is, hey, this is to fund the DPW town hall and X number of potential layoffs and et cetera. So people know exactly what they're voting for if that's a possibility.
So I agree with that, but then here's the other thing. What if the 850 doesn't pass, but the 650 does?
Yeah, I mean, we're playing the psychological game again, which is, the 850 is too much, but I can live with 650. I hear that, Amy.
Yeah.
Maybe it can be worded 850 plus 650 for a total of 1.5 million.
Well, that's basically what it would be. But to Amy's point, somebody's going to say, oh, I have a choice. I can vote for 850 or I can vote for 650 or I can vote for both. I think I'll just vote for 650. So
650 doesn't even put the schools back.
Yeah.
And so I want to be mindful of that, of, the 850. If y'all decided to do how the finance committee recommended with the schools and fire department only, or if you did the suggestion that Mike, Linda, and I had given y'all at the meeting, which was, it was from Linda and we had all worked on it, but it was for dividing that up. So amount to the schools, amount to fire, amount to restoring a police officer. And we had snow and ice in there, but that doesn't have to be. It's just we were trying to be mindful of what goes over. So if you're gonna have it with it on there, I would encourage you to have the 850 and then the 650 as in addition to that 850 to get to the 1.5 million, because 650,000 has not been discussed as an override amount. So I don't want people to get confused about that all of a sudden. I think
Would it
y'all,
have, I was
sorry,
gonna,
Amy.
no, I was gonna ask then, would it be a single warrant article? And it's like, when you're filing your taxes and it has a question, it's like, okay, if yes, proceed to A, and then if also yes, proceed to B, or does it have to be two separate articles?
So right now I have it as two separate articles.
I don't
I
think we
was,
can do it any other way.
I thought
Without,
that having two articles was cleaner.
Okay.
yeah, without being
Lisa-
really confusing. I think if
Lisa
we try to,
recommended.
oh, sorry, go ahead, David.
No,
Go
that
ahead.
was me. I was just gonna
Oh.
say, Lisa had recommended in her memo that she sent that if you're gonna do two separate articles, you should do the large number first and then the secondary number afterwards. That was her recommendation. She said she's seen it that way before. It's less confusing to people, and it basically, like Jennifer described it earlier, it's a reverse pyramid. It's the large number first, and if people don't have an appetite to refund the town for all of the money, then it's the 850 after that.
Yeah. And after having discussed this for all of 3 minutes, I think that's probably the right way to go, because if they have a choice, we need a higher, lesser amount, if you will. So I think we need to go with 1.5 million and the 850 and do our very best to explain how this is going to work. Make sure the moderator does a good job of explaining how it's going to work, so that people don't get confused and think we're trying to rope them into $2.5 million.
Right.
Okay.
The other thing that I am concerned about is if the 850,000 number makes the schools whole, we're going to lose a whole lot of votes that we would otherwise get if the money was divided more uniformly around the town.
So the
The school-
850 does not make the schools whole. The 850, depending on how y'all divided the 850, if you do the 640 that the finance committee recommended, it brings the schools back to FY24 levels. Is that right? FY24 levels? Or was
No,
it FY19?
It's no, if you did the 850 and you gave the schools 640,000 out of there, that would get them back to FY25 levels. What she was worried about is if they get cut, they're back at FY19. That's their
That's
level
it.
funded
Yes.
number. So Jane, to answer your question, that's one of the things that we have to discuss tonight, which is how do you want to appropriate both of these budget items? Do you want you guys have to decide where this money is going in both of these articles before we have a public hearing tomorrow night. Linda, as Jennifer mentioned, Linda did we put together something last Thursday that we, like I said, we thought was based on, the marching orders we got. Amy made the motion that basically said, we all agree on the 850 number. The select board's going to decide where the money's going. So we put together something for both of those items. It's in board docs from our last meeting. There's one for the 850 and there's one for Jennifer. Can you pull up?
Not this one?
That's the finance
No.
committee's suggestion, is it not?
No,
Well, no, then it has it has the one from Linda and Mike and I as well. It has the
Yeah.
finance committees on the first column and then the suggested option 1, because there was the thought of asking everybody to increase it to 990 and only doing one override. And then the other one was 850, a different way. 500 to the school. So 40 to police, 140 to fire, 500 to the schools, 100,000 to snow and ice, and then 50,000 for health insurance. And that is for the new firefighters or the returning firefighters.
So I recognize that, none of this was discussed the last time. It was when I was kind of chuckling when I got to the meeting and a motion was already on the table. I was a little bit late and I was pretty excited that the meeting was, moving along well. But we didn't get a chance to talk about it. And so again, your $1.5 million request, but essentially that puts back most of the personnel cuts, if not all of them. And Linda has a spreadsheet that she can show you all or send you all if you want that, so you can see where the recommendation is for the allocations. I don't know what you want to do with the 850. I think to Jane's point, if you give only two departments, that's the one I was looking for. Can you make that one bigger?
Yep.
So if you go up all the way up to go to the third column, the two columns over. Is your screen frozen?
No.
Okay. So first article, if let's just look at the 851 for now. First article, 850 override. If you scroll down, I redid some of the math here. I went through the whole thing and I looked at the police budget. I looked at the fire department budget. I looked at where we were placing the money. And so the finance committee recommended only two departments getting the money. The fire department at $210,000 and the school at $640,000. So that brings you to the 850. If you scroll down a little bit further, you see that we have $140,000 for the fire department, $20,000 for expenses. Jennifer, can you go a little bit further down to the bottom? $500,000 for the schools. Obviously, the $50,000 for snow and ice is not something that needs to happen. Then we have $50,000 in health insurance. The 210 that the fire department, I guess I could just make a simple recommendation. I redid the math on the police. The police need $50,000 to salvage two positions in our department. The fire department had $210,000 in their allocation, and then we had $50,000 in health insurance. I think that was double added. I subtracted 40% from the $210,000, and that brings us down to $126,000. That's like $63,000 a person. So I think that was added double. I don't think we're starting firefighters off at more than $63,000 a year.
I think what you threw in their stipends, Mike, it does go up to about 70.
Yeah, 70 is the number.
Yeah, 70 is the number on that.
That's still
Okay.
not the whole amount that he's looking at.
That light is
Well,
phenomenal.
even if this is what happens. I changed my kids' playroom because they keep leaving the lights on. I changed it back into my office, and that's the one thing that I haven't switched yet. Either way, you cut $50,000 out of the snow and ice budget. If you give the fire department $210,000, you give the school $590,000. It allows you to give $50,000 to the police department, and I can save two jobs in the police department, and I can keep one of our three known grant writers that I'm aware of that actually write grants in town. That was a recommendation by Linda because she said that the police department reductions were one of the more foolish ones because we were cutting salaries just so that we could add to the overtime line the same as what the fire department is dealing with right now. You can do what you want. I stepped out of, I feel like I've been trying really, really hard to avoid any conflict. So I say that as the chief of police advocating for the department because I'm at a point right now where I can't even buy bullets. So we're in trouble. We've cut our expense lines down to to the point where we just can't operate. But again, the other side of that, Jennifer, if you show them the 1.5 million, those are all the recommendations for the rest of the $1.5 million worth of cuts.
Can we just maybe stick with the 850 for the time being and try to reach a conclusion on that before we jump to the second one?
Yep.
Would that be okay?
I'm gonna,
Yep.
I'm gonna stop sharing.
Yeah, so in terms of the 850, the proposal to deal with snow and ice right now, I mean, there are other mechanisms for that, so I don't really, I think that would almost muddy the water. So here we are talking to people about layoffs and all of that, and then suddenly we're throwing in snow and ice because we had a couple of bad winters. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be thinking about it, but the snow and ice budget can be dealt with differently. It has its own set of rules outside of the operating. So I'd rather not have that 100,000 or even the 50,000 in there. I also want to be very respectful of the work that the finance committee did in terms of, their message was clear. The two departments that they heard the most about were the schools and the fire department. So that all makes sense to me, that's the primary focus of that article. I also, when going back and I think, Mike, when you went in front of the finance committee, they were very understanding about the whole issue that you have in the police department with the overtime, and that, the more cuts you make, the more difficult it is. So I don't necessarily have an issue with allocating some of that. I think in Annie McKenzie's presentation about the schools, they actually had a slightly lower number that she felt, like, comfortable is not the right word, but that they could work within. So if we were to take, whether it's 40,000 or whatever, and move it to the police, I'm okay with that, but I just want to make sure that the finance committee at least is contacted to say that that's the direction that we're going in, because what I don't want to do is set us up for an argument on town meeting floor about the 850.
Well, Amy's motion was we would accept that number pending how we chose to allocate it, which I thought was very clever, Amy.
I agree that we don't just give it to the school and the fire department. Our job is to advocate for the whole town. And if it appears like we're singling out the school and the fire department, I don't think that's going to bode well. I mean, some people are going to be ecstatic and others aren't. So I agree with Molly that we need to come up with a way to allocate this 850 before we go further. I kind of liked what Linda had come up with. I mean, everybody needs to take a hit. We can't just say, okay, school, you're good. Fire department, you're good. And everybody else goes to fend for themselves. That doesn't seem fair to me. But certainly I'd like to hear from the rest of you.
So if we took the budget, the 1.5 budget, and multiplied it by 56.67, which is the percentage that 850 is of that number, and allocated that to the departments right down the line as the other budget, does that work, or does that give us 3/4 people in some offices?
Yeah, that's not gonna. Yeah.
No, Jane, I think you still need to try to stay as true as possible to the FinCom. Speaking as the TA now. I think you need to try to stay as true as possible to it. So there is no necessity to, put a full 50,000 into the police budget. They did suggest to me that I should find within my own budget a way to save my admin, who is our grant writer. So they obviously see a value there. I don't have the money in my budget to save a grant writer. I just don't have it. So Perhaps instead of the 50 that, I need 18 or 19 is what we actually cut from the budget. The fire chief is going to be going within his own budget to save his admin, but he also got a $325,000 increase to his budget, so he may have better luck than I do. But if you did that, then you have 30,000 more dollars to spread to other budgets that you see might need it. You can make the school almost as whole as they were. You can take care of the fire department, at least for this part. Partially take care of some of the police department, and then you have more money to spread around. It's really completely up to you, and I think you should do what Molly said, which is focus on the 850 before you go to the 1.5.
So
I-
I agree with Molly, and I think something that has come up on social media, in the Hadley pages, people want to know, is this it? Oh, if we did the 850, is this it? Or are we going to be back here, in 1, 2, 3, 5 years asking again? So I think when we talk about the 850, we need to say, yeah, this is 850 also includes additional cuts. It's not like the 850 solves all of our problems.
Right.
It just gets back what we've heard the loudest about. And like I said in the last meeting, kind of restart negative 2.5% every year, because if we have people getting 5% increases and we're only have a prop of 2.5, then we're not doing very well for ourselves. And people say, okay, yeah, but what about progression and getting more revenues? Like, we can't bank our budget on a maybe. So I think we just need to be really clear about all of this. Like, 850 is great, but not going to solve everything.
I think that's kind of where you're going with that, Amy, is that unfortunately, if you really want to answer that question, the answer is, yeah, we might be coming back again. I think somebody made the point really well. I think it might have been Molly at the buy board meeting, which is the 1.5 million is the bare minimum that we need. So even that, we're not in the best possible position.
David,
My only fear, if let's say we go for the 850, and then we kind of divvy it up amongst the various departments. The feedback we've gotten from the last override attempt, plus some of the recent capital items, was that people don't want to see them all lumped together, because whether it's right or wrong, they support certain departments or certain things in town and don't support others. So I'm worried that if we lump everything and say, all right, we're going to divvy up this 850, we're going to have more no votes, versus if we say, hey, here's 850 for the fire department and the schools, and here's whatever it is for general government, DPW, etc. I'm worried that if we combine those and try to divvy it up, then we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot.
so what are you saying, David, that you don't agree with the 1.5 million article? You want an 850 and a 650?
No, I want the 850 and the 650, but I want it clear on town meeting floor that if this 850 passes, it will be used for these departments and for these purposes. And if this additional 650 passes, it will be used for general government, DPW, etc. That gives people a choice, and it could leave us in a tough spot, but I think that's our best option for making people aware of exactly what they're supporting.
So-
So I did. Oh, sorry.
No, so right now, the finance committee, as we know, is basically the schools and the fire department. So I guess first question is, do we want to stick with just that? Or based on the motion that Amy made, do we want to take, whether it's 40 or 90, out of the school allocation and move that to police because it's public safety so that we can say we're staying within that? Or do you feel more strongly that we leave it exactly as is for what the finance committee proposed?
No, I mean, I think, a little bit for the police side of there, I think is reasonable. It still falls under public safety. It's kind of under the same umbrella. I think when we start, adding, I don't know, park and rec to it or
Senior center, all of everything else, yeah.
then it's a different set of money.
I
Mhm.
still think DPW is a happy person, a happy department for a lot of people in town, and I can see putting some of that 850 towards DPW and police, and taking some from school and some from fire to get there.
Well, I mean, depending on how this goes, and I think to the point that Amy made, right, about, people wanting to say, okay, if we give you the 850, we're done and we're good. Everybody on this Zoom call right now knows that the answer to that is no, we're not. So we could be coming back with another, I mean, if things are that dire, we could be coming back with another override sooner rather than later. I mean, I would hope not. I mean, we're going to try very hard not to, but I think that the message that I heard from the finance committee is, they want to keep it simple. The majority of the feedback that they received, and granted their feedback and their sources may be different from ours. We all have our circles and we've seen emails coming through to all of us, etc. But the idea of the schools and fire, there's no question, and I would agree, there's no question that the majority of public opinion that I've heard, that is what has grabbed people's attention. So I'm reluctant to veer too far away from it because, again, I don't want to get on town meeting floor and have even 2 or 3 members of the finance committee standing up and arguing and saying, well, the select board decided to do their own thing. They're reallocating after we sent a very clear message. I'm just afraid that could wind up killing the 850. I don't like it. I don't like the allocation, but it's April 21st. And we don't have much time left. So I would advocate for an allocation of, Mike, what does 40,000 get you in police?
I only need 20. If you give me 20, you can put the rest of schools. I'll go into the next override. The 1.5 part of it to save my officer.
I was just going to say, I thought that the 40 would actually save the officer now.
The 40, well, no, it's $50,000 for both positions to save both positions because I can cut my overtime with the additional officer, but I need $19,000 for my admin, the same as the fire chief needs for his admin. So what I'm saying is I think somebody writing grants for the town is probably more valuable than a police officer at this point in time. So if you're asking me for one or the other, then 20,000 in the 850, and then put the rest back to the schools, and the school will end up with 500 and no, the school will end up with $620,000 instead of 650.
Yeah, I think what I'm asking is, I mean, the police officer is going to be out on the streets patrolling, doing traffic tickets, doing speed mitigation, school resource, all that other stuff. So in order for you to say the admin and the police officer, what is that number?
50,000 for both. Yep.
50,000 for both. So I would advocate that we carve out 50 from the school budget as presented by the finance committee to save those two positions in public safety. And that's the only change that the select board makes. And hope that the finance committee can understand the why behind it and they're okay with it.
I'd support that.
I
I'd
think
support that.
Yeah, I will begrudgingly support that.
So I just want to be clear on the numbers here because I have to plug this in. We're doing 210 for fire, 590 for schools, and 50 for PD.
Mhm.
As long as
Okay,
that
so
adds
that's-
up to 850, then yes, that is correct.
It does, but like I said, I just wanted confirmation that we're all on the same page.
Yes, ma'am.
and the
Thank you.
firm message that goes with this part of the vote is we will be back. Because this doesn't, all the rest of these jobs are still
All right.
either waiting for your next vote for the 650 additional to put the town back to no more jobs lost, although we have already lost 11, and I think we need to say that. From in this fiscal year, we have lost, and it will keep us from losing any next fiscal year.
We have to be really careful how we say that, Jane. If we say we will be back, they're going to assume that we don't have any idea what we're doing, and all we're here for is to keep asking for money every year. And that's going to be a real problem. I agree with you. We need the money. There's no question. But let's think about, and we don't have to come up with an answer tonight, but we need to think hard about how we're going to present that.
You need to have one by tomorrow night. You have a public forum.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm more than happy to say that we all the select board is in agreement. We need at least $1.5 million.
Mhm.
There's no question about that, unless somebody's changed their mind in a week. So I'm not afraid to say that the select board is advocating for the $1.5 million. And the finance committee is advocating for the 850, and this is what each one's going to get us, and see what questions we get tomorrow night.
Jennifer, quick question for you, slightly to the side of this conversation. What was the total dollar amount of all the insurance increases that we had not anticipated?
You mean over the course of the last couple of budgets?
Yes.
It was
We're-
30,000 or 30%, and then 12.48 this year.
What I'm looking for is how close does that number come to 1.5 million in dollars?
Yeah, it was 330,000 the first time. Then we had the mid-year increase that was 650,000, and now we have another increase coming up at 12%. I don't know what that number is, but that gets you, the first two get you to 900.
Yeah, it's going to be close,
Pretty-
Jane.
Pretty sure it's right about there.
My point is, there are rumors out there that we are bad fiscal managers. I think when that piece comes up, someone needs to say, no one could have anticipated that we had an additional $1.2 million in expenses for healthcare beyond what we had budgeted.
Mhm.
I do have that. I've made a slideshow for y'all, and that is in there that the unprecedented health increases were, I think I used the word unwarranted and unforeseen or something like that. But yes, that is in there, Jane, because if not for that and a couple of other things, we wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Right. But I think that the town needs to know that
Yes.
it was a big number. It wasn't a little thing. It was a huge number relative to.
All right, I got it right here. So in FY25 actual, health insurance was $1,576,000. And for the 27 budget, we're looking at $2,504,000.
So $1 million.
$1 million, yeah.
Yeah.
But this part of that 26 budget was after the first raise that we had picked up, and we had a second piece in it.
Well, even if we say $1 million, Jane, that's
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
okay, fine.
that's real.
Good.
So, and we're gonna. I mean, we've been harping on this for a year. So, if people haven't heard us yet, they're not going to hear us. But I agree, we need to repeat it. But I don't know how many ears are going to be receptive to it.
Well, that's always a question.
Yeah, I mean, we all know what the reality is. We're trying to convince people that don't want to know or don't want to understand what the reality is, and that's difficult.
Mhm.
So, moving right along, we're good with the 850 number.
Yeah, you need to discuss appropriations for the 1.5.
Do a
Um,
motion first, please.
Oh, sorry.
A motion for the amount for the first warrant article for the 850 and the
Allocation.
thank you of funds.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we make a slight modification to the recommendation from the Finance Committee for an $850,000 override to be broken out as follows: $210,000 to fire, $590,000 to the school department, and $50,000 to police.
Second.
Okay, motion by Molly, second by David. Roll call vote, please. Jennifer.
Phil,
Yes.
Keegan,
Yes.
Iser,
Yes.
Nevin Smith,
Yes.
and Parsons.
Yes.
All right, we're making huge progress here. Let's
Jennifer,
go on
can
to
you
the.
can you
Pardon?
put up that slideshow? I'm asking
Yeah.
Jennifer if she can put the spreadsheet back up there. The spreadsheet in the second article does it gives you we kept it just a tiny bit under just because we're talking about like $3,000. It's $647,091 is the total, and it gets you to $1,497,091. So it essentially restores all support staff hours that were cut. It restores reserve fund monies. I'm not sure if folks were aware, but I know the fire chief was asking for 3 firefighters to get him back to whole, so to speak.
Mhm.
The finance committee only recommended enough funding for 2
Right.
in that 850. So the third firefighter is in the second request. Also related gear and expenses that are necessary. The school, another 170,000 for FY26 level funded. Highway department, so DPW Jane, restores all support staff cuts over there. Board of Health, Council on Aging, Library, all of those support staff hours are restored. Debt and interest payments will continue to be made with this part of it. Health insurance will be covered for any of the support staff that are not covered within there. And the Hadley Media, we are going to run out of funding for Hadley Media at some point in FY28, and rather than trying to find the entirety of that funding in the next budget cycle, this override would cover a significant portion of that moving forward.
So Mike Muley, just pointing out, because of the way we voted on the 850 allocation,
Mm-hmm.
so that 650 allocation was based on the thought that the police would have gotten 90, which they did not. You got 50, so we need to put 40 back in there. And then reduce the additional for the school because the school got 590, not 500, right, to balance this out.
You don't have to do anything with the police. I redid the math on the police. I think we added wrong when we put this together with Linda.
Oh, okay.
So I won't need anything in the second one. But you're right about the school, Molly. We need to, if you want to hit the mark that we had for the school, we need 60,000 more
Mhm.
coming from that that column to move into the school to make them fully whole.
Mhm.
I think one of the things we need to be clear on at town meeting, you mentioned it, restoring support staff. I think what we need to be clear on is that this does not reverse the savings we've realized from outsourcing and combining positions and eliminating some positions permanently. This only restores essential support staff overall.
But
Mhm.
technically, they don't need restoring because they haven't been cut. It's only a proposed cut.
Right.
We have people who have jobs and positions that are no longer in our ledger, if you will, that were cut in the 26 budget. And if we have no override, then we're talking about these positions being lost. And if we have the override to the full amount, then none of those positions get cut. But the difference
I think what he's saying though, Jane, is that we need to make sure that folks aren't don't think that we're asking for this override to restore everything that we've done. Part of what we had talked about and what was a little bit confusing to me with some of the finance committee recommendations were, we have to show people what we did differently, and what we had done differently was we cut positions. So I was puzzled, by recommendations to refill positions. Not that I disagreed with it, just because, 'cause I didn't want to go down that road in the first place. But we do need to show folks that those positions that we cut in 25 are gone. And there were some cuts that we made for 26, which are not coming back either. These were partial admin position cuts that could be restored if it's the select board's pleasure. The
With
entire HR department is gone. So that, those are ones that aren't coming back. There's 3 positions in that department that were cut. And now Jennifer and the treasurer's office handle that load. So things like that, I think maybe David, correct me if I'm wrong, you're just suggesting that we make clear that this isn't restoring everything that we have done to get a balanced budget.
Right.
Correct. We listened to the voters and they wanted to see savings and efficiencies, and we did the best we could with that, and we're not going back on that.
So
I do want to be clear with okay, sorry.
I was going to say, I think in this situation, restore is not the right word,
Exactly.
because that insinuates that we're bringing something back. To Jane's point, they haven't lost their jobs yet. So we just need to think of a different way to phrase that so that it's understood that this money will allow these people to continue to work and not lose their jobs, rather than
retain.
So we'll maintain.
Okay, there you go. That's better.
Retain or maintain?
Retain.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There are
I do
support staff that we're retaining, not just extra whatever.
Right.
Okay.
Good
I do
job,
just want to put
Molly.
it out there that there's $20,000 for inspection staff being added back in for an admin in that office, with a part-time building commissioner and a part-time building inspector. They do have to have some support. So we put it back in there at part-time for $20,000.
Mm-hmm.
We
And that's
recognize
for the generating department. I think that's very explainable.
Okay, I wanted to draw your attention to it because it is adding something back. We're not adding a permitting coordinator, we're adding an admin assistant. And that they definitely need help with getting their revenues in and up.
And the reality is that's a part of our public safety departments.
Absolutely, it is.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So if you're kind of in agreement with the majority of those things, we do need to find 50,000 from that column to move back to the schools, unless you're okay with the school having the
Well,
school having $760,000 increase in both. If we get both overrides, the school will have 760 with what is on this spreadsheet right now.
well, and on that spreadsheet, that 170,000 included a $30,000 increase above and beyond the 650, right?
Correct. Am I still sharing my screen or no?
You are not.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm over here scrolling around on it like you can all see it. So yes, it does. It restores to FY26 level funded plus 30,000 additional. So Molly, you're saying to remove the 30,000?
Well, so right now is that 650,000 breaks out, it includes 170,000 going to the school.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what Mike was saying is because we have the school getting 590,
Mm-hmm.
they really only need 60 to get them to the 650, but we're showing them getting 170.
Right. That was going back to Linda's projections. This goes back, so we just need to adjust it because Linda had him getting 500,000 in the first division that we did of that 850. So these numbers don't quite work anymore. So we can adjust them.
I
I
see
hit a
what you're
bunch of
saying
stuff.
now.
Yeah. And in addition to the adjustments, do they need the 30,000 additional? What was the rationale for that?
Because that restores them back to where they would have been if there were no cuts for FY26.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's fine.
That's fine. Yep.
So leave them with the 170?
No, what would get them there at 590? They needed to be 640, right? And you got them being at 670. So they've got 590. So whatever they need to get to 670, which is what?
670 or 640?
Well, 640 was the original plus the 30, right?
Yeah.
So it's 170.
No, that's no, because they're at 6, they're at 5.
They need $80,000.
Yeah, right. So they need 80,000. So 90,000 of that 170 needs to go elsewhere.
Right.
I think it would be great to put that back into, and I know what people are saying about snow and ice, but whether it's general maintenance at DPW or snow and ice, either one. I mean, we got a lot of potholes to patch and stuff like that I think people would be
Don't
understanding.
call it snow and ice. Just put it general.
Well, we put 85,000 already back into DPW, thinking, I mean, obviously Scott's got to weigh in, but thinking some sort of building maintenance, highway labor, putting that back in, perhaps even 1.5 of those. So you could put the DPW up at 120.
We're
And he can
only
have
seeing
2.
half of your screen. I mean, we don't see the left half.
Sorry, how's that?
That's better.
So
Good.
here, right here,
That doesn't-
you have, we were restoring the building maintenance and a highway person, at least 1.5. So you could put that back up to 100,000.
Yeah,
Okay.
And,
So
and then to David's point, the building maintenance line item, we cut $52,000 out of, and I think there's a lot of concern that we don't have enough money to maintain what we have. So it's not just the labor cost, it's, the materials.
490s, I'm
Mhm.
sorry, Molly.
Go ahead.
The 490s exist for this purpose already. The money that we were cutting was the salary. The 490s exist. They have a good amount of money in them, and their contracts already exist to maintain stuff.
Mhm.
What we were looking to do was to have an admin in the DPW do the administration of calling in the contractors, because we have to call contractors for almost everything at this point. So we were going to have an admin do that instead of a maintenance supervisor. So I already had been pushing on to have the maintenance person added back in. So we did that already. That's where that 85 is. It's part of the building maintenance. It's the building maintenance person and part of a highway laborer. But if you do the 100,000, then it could be both a
Mhm.
building maintenance person and a laborer.
It is
And give
building
him
maintenance 490. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, building maintenance is the 490s.
All right, because it
Yes.
says 440 on this
Yeah.
chart
No,
you've got
building
here.
440 is Linda combined in the building maintenance 490s. That is a typo.
Yeah, that's all we're saying, Jennifer.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm
That's
sorry.
all.
I'm sorry. I got it.
Okay, that's fine.
Got it. Okay. 490s are the the working funds. Toilet paper, holes in the wall, new light bulbs, maintenance contracts for HVAC, calling in the plumber, all of that kind of stuff. The 55,000 we were cutting was the partial of the building maintenance supervisor's position from those lines. We were adding that back in because we also heard the outcry of that. So that was something when we were adding it back in and trying to put the town back to a more solid position. That was one of the things we were adding back in. But we also know that we've cut Scott. I believe he's down a sewer operator and one laborer or two laborers. So we were trying to be mindful that maybe we could do a little bit more for him. So I would recommend, he has 8,500 or 85,000 right now for the highway. I would recommend making that at least 100,000, if not 125,000. And that would give a building maintenance person and a highway laborer.
Okay. And then whatever's left from that could go into the reserve fund for the finance committee.
Okay,
I
we
think
already
that's it.
gave them 25,000 to get them up to 60.
Right. But they
They
originally
used to be
had
at like
100.
they used to be at like 75 or 100. Why don't we put the 120 in the DPW and then whatever's left into reserve?
Mhm.
Can we do 125 for the DPW total?
Sure.
So it would actually, they already have 85. So if we're just adding more, it would just be 40 grand more to get them to 125.
Yep.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
All right, 40K for DPW additional. And then the rest into FinCom's reserve fund.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Okay.
can we just, this is a nit, but can we just make it an even 650,000? So that everything adds up to that and not 647,091?
Yes. For the record, there were some complaints last time about we just had like this nice solid number and it wasn't showing our real need. But yes, I'm happy to do that. You try to take on everybody's concerns so that you can make sure that it passes. But yes, we will do that. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen if that's okay, because I wasn't doing a very good job of it.
I think we got the gist of it, Jennifer.
Okay,
Okay.
so I will
Um,
make, well, you got more? I was gonna make a motion. Yeah, okay. All right, I will make a motion that we approve an additional second override article with allocations totaling 650,000 as presented with the reallocations that we discussed impacting the reserve fund line, the school department line, and the highway line.
And just to be clear, this motion is going to be, the article will be for $650,000, correct? Not the $1.5 million?
Correct.
it will be, yeah, because the first one, if the first one passes, then it will be for 650, and that will include the amount already approved,
Yeah, okay. Gotcha.
according to our town council.
You know, I understand that. I just want to be clear what we're doing, that's all.
Yep.
And
Yes.
I agree I mean, that seems to be the way to go, to be the less confusing of our options.
Okay.
So Molly made a motion. Anybody want a second?
Second,
Okay, motion by Molly, second by Jane. Roll call vote, please, Jennifer.
Roll call vote, Phil,
Yes.
Keegan,
Yes.
Iser,
Yes.
Nevin Smith,
yes.
and Parsons.
Yes.
Spoken like a true farmer.
Yes.
So what are we doing tomorrow night, folks, at 7:00?
So we're having a forum on the override, correct?
And
That's what
will
I
it be
understand.
like?
And I believe, in my opinion, it's going to be question and answers. It's not going to be us telling people this is what it is. I want some engagement from the crowd, if you will, so that hopefully we can get some questions answered before we get to town meeting. Does anybody disagree with my assessment of that?
And is this separate from us doing the voting and allocation of articles? Or is this all at the same time?
So
This is just the override.
Mhm.
Just
Yeah,
the
just-
override. I'm so sorry. Thank you.
Yeah. And I mean, Randy, there needs to be some presentation because otherwise people aren't going to know.
oh yeah, I understand. I'm not saying there's no presentation. I just
But
don't want it
it's
to
just
be
the high
just
level.
just
Yeah.
a presentation.
Yeah.
I want presentation, and I want people to be able to ask questions.
Mhm.
And Jennifer, you said you had something for a presentation for us, basically?
I do. I try to keep it to a very reasonable amount of slides. I think there's like 15 of them. And just trying to make sure that y'all have something to refer to as you move through the night.
So yeah, Jennifer wants me to go see her tomorrow and go over it. Is there anybody else who's available between 10 o'clock and noon tomorrow that we could go take a look at this? Just one of you, obviously, that we could go take a look at it and fine tune it.
I can go on the late end of that. I can't go at 10.
What's the late end?
Hard to answer. I'm taking Diane to the doctor at 9:45 in Springfield.
Okay.
So 11, I would say.
All right. Shortly thereafter, does that work, Jennifer? If we get hold of you at the last minute and say we're coming?
Yep. Oddly enough, I'm there all day.
Really?
I will text you as we leave Springfield, Randy.
All right. Sounds good, Jane. Thank you.
Mike, can you plan on being there too?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Without that frontier hat, please.
Yeah, do not wear that to the override, please.
I think one of the things that is going to come up at the public forum or on town meeting floor is going to be a split rate based on what I'm hearing from people. And so I think whether people are for it or against it, I think one of the things we need to be unified on is our message that that's something we can talk about and people can advocate for or against in the future, but that has nothing to do with what we're voting on at town meeting and for an override. And that'll be determined in November or whatever it is that we normally look at that.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, Jennifer, a quick question. The senior center wants to know how you see the room set up for this event because they need to plan around something they're doing tomorrow.
I was gonna do the tables underneath the projector.
Under the
And-
screen or the projector?
Yes, I'm sorry, under the screen
Good, okay.
and crowd out in the
Okay,
out from
great.
there.
Got it.
Okay, that's wonderful. So we're done with the override discussion for this evening. Okay, moving right along to the town meeting warrant. And where are we? Come on. All right, Jennifer wants us to close the warrant tonight.
Make a motion to close the warrant.
Is the strong chief on the warrant?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
We still
Second
have,
that then.
Okay,
sorry, what's that, Amy?
she
I
seconded
said I'll
it.
seconded it.
Okay, all right. Yeah,
So,
we still have time to discuss, have further discussions and vote on these articles. So we're just making this go to print so you can get it out the door, right?
Yep.
all right, so motion by David, second by Amy, roll call vote, please.
I'll vote Phil,
Yes.
Keegan,
Yes.
Heiser,
Yes,
Parsons.
Yes.
and Nevin Smith.
Yes.
I mixed it up there.
yeah,
Saw that.
So fine,
Sorry.
I was ready.
make sure we're on our game, huh?
Yep. I try to keep it the same because it's easier for the minutes, but
Yeah, okay, so that concludes the public session of our meeting. The next item is to go into executive session to discuss town unions. I don't know if Amy's going to be able to do her thing and do it legibly, but you can try, Amy.
Legibly. Yeah, let me
You're-
see if.
You're just breaking up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
When I said you did what you did was spoken like a true farmer, you sounded like a sheep.
Oh, that's the joy of being at the edge of the town, right?
All right, well, you're sounding good right now, so go for it.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to make a motion that we move into executive session. If this will let me read it. Okay, so I'm making a motion that we enter into executive session pursuant to open meeting law, chapter 30A, section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining. In this case, it'll be the town unions. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the town, and if the chair so declares, we will also not be reconvening an open session tonight.
Second.
Okay. As chair of the Hadley Select Board, I state that the board has moved and seconded to enter into executive session, and that I state that discussing the matter in open session will have a detrimental impact on the bargaining position of the town of Hadley. Roll call vote, please, Jennifer.
roll call vote. Phil,
Yes.
Keegan,
Yes.
Heiser,
Yes,
Nevin Smith,
Yes.
and Parsons.
Yes.